here on YouTube on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. I hadn't planned to go live today, guys, but it was just kind of, as I got in the car, I was just kind of hit with some inspiration to do a live video about the spending bill that passed this weekend, the one that I think either exclusively or largely funded Ukraine and had all the congressmen whipped into a frenzy, like waving their fucking Ukrainian flags back and forth. Like I just felt like I had to make a video about that. I obviously hadn't really done anything or said anything about it yet, even though it was just this past weekend. But yeah, so it was inspired to nonetheless jump on here and talk about it for a little bit. I think I would start off, guys, the way that I want to start this video is for all my Goodfellas fans out there. If you've watched Goodfellas even once, I mean, but certainly if you're like a huge fan and you've watched it a lot, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You guys remember towards the beginning of the movie, there's the guy who owns the restaurant. There's the guy who owns the restaurant who sits down. He has all the gangsters coming in the restaurant and, you know, fucking the place up and stuff like that. And, you know, like just, you know, not paying their tab or whatever. And he sits down with Big Paulie, you know, Paul Sorvino. And he's like, hey, can you come in on the restaurant with me? And, you know, you'll be my partner. And then these gangsters that kind of like either report to you or they know you, you know, the implication is they're not going to get away with as much because you own part of the restaurant. Like, they're not going to fuck you over because you own part of the place, right? You know, not all of this is spoken dialogue, but this is inherent in what they're discussing, right? And so, you know, Big Paulie's like, I think he's like, even though he carries like a very dour expression throughout the film for the most part. I mean, it's just played perfectly by Paul Sorvino. You know, he almost looks incredulous that the guy is asking him to be a partner with him in the restaurant, right? Like, he just can't believe it. And at one point, he actually comes out and says, like, it's not even fair, right? Like he actually uses that sentence, you know, it's not even fair, right? Yeah, because he knows that once he's a partner in the restaurant, it's over. It's over for the other guy, right? He's just going to sell him the fuck out, you know, bang the place out. Yeah, bust out the joint is how they, you know, they basically describe it when Leota and Pesci are hanging those like little flammable, you know, rags from the ceiling. You're just gonna burn the place down, right? And in the meantime, what ends up happening, you know, they do become partners, obviously, but before they bust the joint out and burn the place down, they just like steal all the stuff through the back. They steal all the food, they steal all the liquor, you know, and then they resell it or whatever they're doing with it, you know, for a profit. And so basically, you know, Big Paulie's interest in the restaurant was just to leech off of it, right? Just sell the joint out, steal everything, you know, and you know, make money off of it until there was no money left to be made, and then you burn the place down, right? So basically, that is one of the best analogies that I can come up with for not only what this country's, you know, ruling elite, for lack of a better term, have done to us, but what they specifically did to us yet again this past weekend. Okay, the United States is the. I mean, I think it had like tiki torches and stuff like that. I don't even remember what the name of the restaurant was in the movie. The United States is the restaurant, okay? Big Paulie is the government. It's the Congress, okay? It's the president, okay? The restaurant owner are the American people, okay? The sad sack restaurant owner who asks Big Paulie to come in as a partner, okay? That's us, okay? Like, we had something here for a little while, and trust me, it wasn't anywhere near perfect. It wasn't anywhere near perfect. It never has been since day one. But just relatively speaking, like, where were we with this country and where have we gotten to? Just that contrast alone. That we have now proceeded into a phase with this country where we have been sold the fuck out. Okay, and you guys know, typically, I don't, well, not 100% of the time, but I mean, I typically don't curse on these videos unless I'm really fired up about something. And so, you know, here I am. But we got sold out again this weekend, just like we've been getting sold out, since, pick a milestone, decoupling from the gold standard, the Federal Reserve creation. I mean, you could pick any of these major moments, and not any one single one of them sums it all up. But there are some big ones, obviously, like the two I just mentioned. But this weekend I think it was like $95 billion, I think, or something like that. We borrowed another $95 billion to send it overseas, to a corrupt government in Ukraine. I mean, all the governments are corrupt. Don't get me wrong. There's no non-corrupt government, right? But just knowing that that's where the borrowed money went, it's like borrowing money so that you can then give it to your scheming relative who never is successful at business and always squanders the money. It's like, you borrowed the money, you got to pay the interest on it, and you hand the money over to that scheming relative who's definitely going to fucking blow it on something. It's basically, what happened this weekend, right? So Ukraine gets the money to help continue the war against Russia. We've been falsely led to believe that Russia's some existential threat to the United States. Just like all the bullshit stories were through the Cold War. We can't let the communists succeed in Vietnam. We can't let the communists succeed in Cuba. We can't let the communists succeed, anywhere, or the United States will fall. It's just a bunch of bullshit for about, 50 years or so. Designed to scare us, designed to facilitate the plundering of the coffers, just standard issue stuff like that. And so here we are again. Russia's some grave existential threat to the United States. I mean, they're not going to fucking invade the United States. They're not going to come across the fucking, shores of California and New York and fucking invade us. I mean, and I don't even care what they do internationally. I don't see them as some kind of like, existential threat to the United States. So, so here we are again, 95 billion that we don't have. You and I will pay interest on it. The money supply expands. The transaction velocity picks up. And, 3, 5, 7, 12 years from now, we'll pay higher prices for bread and eggs and whatever. We'll all be scratching our heads as to why. And we'll forget about, not just this bill that passed away. That alone isn't going to do the trick. But just all these little instances, 95 billion here, 50 billion there, 100 billion over there, 10 billion there, and meanwhile, all the while, no money to fix any of our own problems here, not fixing issues with whether you agree with them or not in terms of the policies. We just somehow can't find a cent to do anything about things like the border or crumbling infrastructure like the Baltimore Bridge. We don't have any money for it. We don't have any money for that. Can't figure out the homelessness problem. Let them sleep in fucking tents in the middle of nowhere. Don't have any money to solve that problem. But we definitely got money for Ukraine. We definitely got money for wars in the Middle East. We definitely got money for Indo-Pacific strategic military concerns. I mean, it's so utterly fucking disgusting at this point. I saw a quote, and I kind of hate to highlight this quote because there's nothing good about this quote. It's just that it happens to be starkly true. And I forget exactly where I saw it. But I don't remember where I think it was on Twitter, but I don't remember the account. And basically it was like a meme quote, it was just like a block quote, not typed out, that said something like, in olden times, and I'm paraphrasing a little, I don't remember it exactly. In olden times, countries looted and pillaged other countries for the benefit of their own citizens. The United States loots and pillages its own citizens for the benefit of other countries. And I was like, that about sums it up. I mean, it's actually really hard to argue with that, how can you argue with that, right? Just really, really incredible. A sad commentary. I mean, obviously nothing good about looting and pillaging other countries for the benefit of your own citizens. That was never a good approach. But here we are, and we've actually had it inverted, right? We actually have it inverted, against us, now here in the United States, where we actually watch our government loot and plunder whatever wealth is left in this country and send it overseas to other countries. So it's really, really incredible, guys. Really, really amazing to see this thing play out the way that it has. I mean, and let me tell you right now, guys, let me just go in on one of the two parties a little bit harder than the other. You have a Democrat Party that, well, supposedly anti-war. I guess maybe you could point out a contradiction in both of these parties. But, typically the Democrat Party was anti-war. Republicans loved war. But here you have, Democrat congressman, president, funding wars all over the place, funding genocides, things like that. So I guess they kind of broke convention on their side. But what I was going to say was you have a joke of a Republican Party saying that, they're against expansion of government. They're against, overspending, expanding government, all this crap, right? And meanwhile, it's just one spending bill after another that they hack off on, right? I mean, do not, one thing I can't stand is a hypocrisy, right? So I can't stand, if somebody says I'm a Republican because I want small government, or I want limited spending, or I don't want government to expand itself or go adventuring around the world militarily, then I would naturally follow up and say, okay, so you've rejected this Republican Party. You must have, right? You can't not have done that, right? Because this Republican Party signs every spending bill, expands every opportunity they can at government, or at least the pieces they like, right? The pieces they support and like get expanded, get built out, right? We're funding military adventures around the world. We're funding interventionism. We're funding meddling in other countries. So Republicans have broken their brand, right, by doing stuff like this. They've gotten away from their brand. And I guess the more I think about it, Democrats have essentially done the same thing with their brand of being anti-war, because they certainly have found themselves in a situation where they have been funding wars and doing all this kind of crazy stuff now with Ukraine and so on and so forth. So, it's really kind of interesting, guys, to see it. I think, in this information age, we get a chance to see things kind of, and you got to accept my apologies, guys. I'm parallel parking on the opposite side of the street here. But, I think if you feel like you've been kind of informed for a while, you already know there's no difference between these parties. It's a uniparty. It's generally going in the same direction. It just kind of, disagrees on how to get there. That's all. It just disagrees on how to get there. But it definitely is headed in the same direction, right? Right. Less rights and freedom for you and I, more fiscal expansionism and government expansionism, and power accruing to those elites. So, I think that you just have to look at things like this weekend, guys, to kind of see okay, yeah, that's the uniparty at work. That's the uniparty doing what it's designed to do. Just signing off wholesale on these bills. And, occasionally you get a couple of these idiots who they object to this stuff. They get all upset about it. They make theatrical type of reactions to it. And I'm not going to name any names. You guys know who I'm talking about. I mean, you can dig up the people who oppose this spending bill and just kind of look at their track record and what they've been doing and haven't done and how effective they've been at making a difference in Congress. I mean, just like I'd make a difference if I was like, hey, I'm going to join the mafia and I'm going to turn them into a legitimate organization. Okay, it's just such a joke, right? So even the people who oppose, the congressmen who oppose this situation, they're a joke too. I don't believe it for a second. And if they do believe that they could have stopped it, well, then they're so stupid they shouldn't even be there in the first place. So anyway, guys, I'm going to end the rant here, but just had to kind of light it up a little bit because I hadn't really done anything or said anything about the spending bill from this weekend, maybe some retweeting and stuff like that. But anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for checking out either the live broadcast or the recording of this. Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. Until next time, hope everybody has a great Tuesday night, and we'll talk soon.